Hi, this is Michael Kiwanuka, and my album is Kiwanuka. The title of my album, Kiwanuka, I decided to make it a self-titled album. It's my third one. It's not always usual to have your third album as self-titled. Usually it's like the first. But it has happened in the past. Some of my favorite artists have named their first record, not their first record, self-titled, but it is quite rare. And I just thought that in itself is a bit of a statement, because it's almost like going backwards in a way. And the message of the album was a bit more being bold in myself. So I thought calling it Kiwanuka would be another example of how to really say, I'm now at peace with myself as a human and an artist, and this is the music. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind the name Kiwanuka. Musically, the inspiration was like similar to what it's been the last couple of albums, but musically been really inspired by black music from the 70s, but kind of the more eccentric kind, like whether it's the more psychedelic kind or artists that kind of went against the grain in terms of who people kind of maybe expected them to be. So whether that's, a George Clinton from Funkadelic, he's very unique, made music that was very eccentric, but kind of went against the grain of what black music was at the time. Lyrically, the inspiration was just a bit more of what I was talking about with the name of the album, was just to be kind of delve deeper into identity and what it means to be, I guess, first generation Black British, but also just more personally, just coming to terms with growing up, I guess, and being an adult musically and as a human, being at peace with myself. So that's kind of what the inspiration was for this record.
I can't deny myself, show me the feeling.
I worked on this record with two producers, with Inflow and Danger Mouse, great producers, and we would just go to the studio with empty-handed and just start playing. That's kind of how we did it. It's hard to really describe or to go, but we just kind of went in not expecting much or with little prescription and just played. The songs began to take shape after, the first couple of weeks were really quick. We just played, and then these songs and ideas were coming out like every day there was a new song. No lyrics, but like music, loads of good music. And then I'd, take it away. And to be honest, the first kind of year we started working on it, the first kind of few months started working on it. I didn't work like a year solid, but it was in between touring. The second album, I would take it away, but I wouldn't listen to it too much. And then eventually we had enough material or pieces of music, I started to write the lyrics to it. And at that time, that's when I started to think about myself as a human being. And I knew that I had this feeling of like, I don't want to always be feeling like I have the imposter syndrome or down on myself or trying so much to prove something to someone else about what it is that I do. I knew that was something that I wanted to sing about a bit. So songs like You Ain't the Problem started to take shape. Towards the end, I had some songs that I was working on anyway that I'd bring in and write at home. And when the album was take shape, if there was any holes, I'd have a few things that would be like, this song sounds pretty good. What do you think? And I'd offer it to Brian and Flo and be like, do you reckon this will fit in our sequence? And songs like Solid Ground were like that, So that's kind of like roughly the process as best as I remember it. Inflow came in one day, we were in London, and he was like, I heard these two chords on TV. So he's like, on this Nat King Cole documentary, just literally these two chords in the background of them talking about, I think at the time Nat King Cole had bought a house in a really posh part of LA and his family were there, and there was these two chords that you would miss, anyone would miss it. It ended up being the basis of the intro of Hard to Say Goodbye, all these big strings. So like, how do you get it to sound like how it sounds on that documentary where it's like all muffly and wobbly? So we spent ages. Flo hired, we went into the studio in London and we hired like this 22-piece orchestra with like a harp. And then it was like me and Flo in the control room who don't really know how to like read music or do like classical stuff. Like just saying, can you make it sound more wobbly? And but we managed to get it. And we managed to get this sound that we like loved off this documentary, and it's like to the T. That was like one of a really fun moment of creating the record. Those little things that, you know, no one else would probably think about, that took ages and that was like really overblown. I mean, I remember like having to tell the labels like, we need 22 like musicians and a harp and a blah and this, and it was like, what are you lot doing in there? But it worked out.